Is Ruben Amorim actually making Man United worse? Newcastle just did the league double over Man United for the first time in 96 years, and they did it with ease. But this problem is much deeper than one game. We'll be breaking down the hidden flaw that is killing Man United's attack, the huge setback that could end Man United's season, and is Ruben Amorim the real reason why Man United are falling apart? Because this goes beyond bad form. Something is broken at Man United, and it all starts with how they play on the ball. If you press the right way against this Man United team under Ruben Amorim, they will struggle. But what is the right way? This is straight after the second goal, and Newcastle goes straight into their man-for-man press. They press every single player in that Man United team individually, and the hope is that they won't be able to play out from the back because they don't have the individual quality or patterns of play to play through them. And you can see the key thing they have to account for is those number 10s from Man United in Garnacho and Bruno Fernandes. And what they did was so clever. Is they go into this 5-4-1 formation. Jacob Murphy drops back into that wing-back role, tracking the opposite wing-back in Amas in this game. And that allows Trippier to drift out and Dan Burn to drift out and track those number 10s wherever they go. If you press high against this Man United team and go man for man, then you will cause chaos in their build-up. And the real reason it did is because of their double pivots. As Eriksen plays this ball back to the goalkeeper, you can see Newcastle triggered that press already. They've left Lindelof free. Isak curving that run, leaving that man marking scheme because he knows Lindelof is not a threat, which we'll come on to later on. But he presses that ball, presses the goalkeeper into a forced pass, and there's just no options on the pitch. No options being made by Man United players that will allow them to play out from the back without being under threat of losing the ball high in their own defensive third. But the main reason it doesn't work is down to one player. And the best way for me to show you this is in Newcastle's first goal, and the player is Victor Lindelof. And it's not his fault. He's being asked to do something that comes unnatural to him and even Maguire when they play in that middle centre-back role. And you can see as Man United win the ball back on the transition, Zirkzee plays that ball into Mazraoui, and Lindelof's first thought, what he's been told to do, is to move into centre midfield, alongside Agate, alongside Eriksen, and it's just a huge problem in their build-up. Mazraoui plays the ball into Lindelof, who bounces the ball back to Agate under no pressure, nice and simple, he can do that no problem. When Agate tries to bounce that ball back to Lindelof, that's when the problems start. You can see Joelinton already reads what's about to happen. He goes on the press. And this is where a centre-back in a centre midfield role doesn't work. He doesn't receive it correctly. He doesn't push it out onto that left-hand side to open out that pitch through to Yoro or Bruno Fernandes. And then the ball's stuck underneath his feet. He's playing a pressured pass and he just fires it into Eriksen. Just fires it into him, hopes he can deal with it. And that's what happens when you put a centre-back next to that centre midfielder in a pressurised midfield zone. And Eriksen somehow cushions this back to Agate, but then Agate, under pressure, plays a loose pass, just floats it into an area he hopes Bruno Fernandes can pick it up, but it's just not going to happen. And that's where Newcastle break. And this is the problem that Man United have when they turn the ball over in these high areas, in their own defensive half. Murphy plays the ball into Trippier's feet. Amas doesn't really come out to press, and Bruno makes a lovely run, just draws Eriksen away. And again, Eriksen's not a centre midfielder. He just runs with Bruno, doesn't consider passing him on to Yoro potentially, keeping that centre midfield spot, maybe allowing Amas just to screen the pass and then going out as and when it happens. And he causes a big gap in between him and Agate. And this is where Lindelof should do better, because this is where he's a centre-back. He's dropped back into that centre-back role alongside those centre-backs in Mazraoui and Yoro. But he just gets done. Absolutely done by Isak's movement. Movement that he goes on the blind side as if he's going to run in behind, but comes to feet. And then Trippier finds him with a lovely pass. And that's where it's just magic. You know, this is where I'm not going to blame Man United players. I don't think Yoro does too bad in tracking a run. Lindelof's already made the mistake. But it's just beautiful play from Alexander Isak. Perfect way to pass. Tonali, beautiful running behind Yoro. And just the technique on the finish is beautiful. But this all starts with Man United in build-up. And if you look at the data from the game, Man United turned over the ball 16 times in these high areas. 16 times. 3 of them leading to a shot, 3 of them in a goal. It's just insane. They can't build up from the back. They're effectively playing with 10 men when you have Lindelof playing in that double pivot role. And it's just a huge problem. And I saw a stat that pretty much sums up Man United's defensive performance under Ruben Amorim. Since his first game in charge, only Southampton, Tottenham, and Leicester have conceded more goals in all competitions than Man United. It's a huge problem. It's not just what they do off the ball, it's what they're doing on the ball that's causing them so many problems. But Man United fans, let me know down in the comments, start the discussion below. Is it the system or is it the players? The players have been blamed for so long now under different managers, but now it feels like they got a manager that's just trying to force them into a system. It doesn't feel like they're not working hard. It feels like they got quality as and when it comes out in the moments that suit their style of play, like in transitions. But in this build-up, I can't point to the players here. I can only point to the system, but let me know what you think down in the comments. And Man United fans, unfortunately it might get worse before it gets better, because the biggest positive from that game turned into the biggest negative, and that is the injury of Joshua Zirkzee. He has the talent, the individual talent to push for that number one striker role at Man United in the mid to long term. And if you see that first big chance from the game, this is when Man United's attacking sort of ability comes alive. Eriksen nicks the ball from Bruno Fernandes, and you can see this is where Man United come alive. Talented players in that attacking third, playing with other talented players on the transition, and just using their own ingenuity, their own sort of ability to create out of nothing. Fernandes plays a lovely first time pass, doesn't wait for it to sort of settle underneath his feet, draws in Fabian Schär, then makes a little run in behind him. But then Zirkzee, behind the back, little flick, back into Fernandes' path. Fernandes plays again a first time pass back into Zirkzee's feet as he turns, and then a lovely little powerful shot that's Pope saves well. But this is what happens when you play Zirkzee up top. Højlund's been flattering to deceive, honestly, all season. And this is where I have to come back to Amorim. Amorim decided to start Rasmus Højlund in their biggest game of the season away at Lyon, and then play Zirkzee from the start against Newcastle in a dead rubber game in the Premier League where they're not playing for anything. I can't explain it. No one can foresee when you're going to pick up an injury. He probably thought, let me give Zirkzee some game time and then play him in the home game. Potentially could have started him in that game after his impact in the second half, but it's too late. The team selection at times can be baffling from Ruben Amorim, but it's a bigger story here. There's a much bigger story, and it goes further than the individual players. And to understand whether Ruben Amorim is really to blame for this current situation, let's go back to November 2021, when Eddie Howe joined Newcastle. Newcastle were in the midst of a relegation battle, 19th in the Premier League, and at the end of the season they finished 11th, 6th in the form table after Eddie Howe joined. Amorim joined in November, the exact same month, the exact same game week as Eddie Howe in that 2021-2022 season. Man United were 13th when he joined, only 4 points away from third. They're now 15th in the form table since Amorim's first game, 14th in the Premier League table, and only 3 points away from 17th in the league. Look at the squad that Eddie Howe inherited versus the squad that Amorim inherited. You cannot tell me it's the individual players. They are better than 14th position. And then we go to the system. Is it the 3-4-3? Oliver Glasner came in at Crystal Palace last season, and look at the turnaround at that club. Look how they're all playing within that system. They all know what they're doing week in, week out. So it's not the system. And that all points towards the coaching. He has this one idea that he keeps talking about. I think it's his 5 at the back. But every manager, every elite manager tweaks things in games, tweaks things game to game, changes things if they're not working. And so let me know down in the comments, is it the manager? Is it the players? Make sure to check out my recent video where I explored that exact same issue, and I'll see you on the next game of Two Halves episode.